Every week, we bring you 20 exclusive dashcam videos you won't see anywhere else, and this week is no exception. Hold on tight because Wham Bam Dashcam is back, and we're not slowing down for anything. Ty was driving through Chicago in his Kia K5 GT line when an oncoming minivan driver turned left across the road in front of him. The impact cut power to Ty's dashcam, which is why his footage abruptly ends. When police responded, the driver of the minivan put the blame on Ty, and that's when Ty showed the officers his dashcam footage. After seeing this video, the cops found the minivan driver responsible and issued him a citation. His insurance provider paid Ty $63,000 for his totaled vehicle, plus another $34,000 in medical expenses. Now, we couldn't help but notice that at the time of the impact, Ty's Kia was traveling at 62 miles per hour on a road with a 40-mile-per-hour speed limit. This doesn't excuse the minivan driver's failure to yield, but even so, did the cops get this one wrong? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Either way, slowing down probably could have saved Ty from a lot of actual pain. Let's hope he drives more carefully in the Nissan Sentra he got to replace his Kia K5. Nick was on his way to lunch when he noticed a Honda Civic approaching rapidly from behind. As it passed him on the left, a white car pulled onto the road from the right before cutting all the way into the far lane.
Woo, there it is.
The Civic driver's speeding and the other driver's illegal turn across lanes combined to create a collision that definitely could have been avoided. Both drivers pulled over, as did Nick, who checked on the driver of the white car. Thankfully, nobody was injured in the collision. Nick shared his dashcam footage with the responding deputy, but he told us he never found out who was determined to be responsible. Cast your vote in the comments below. Fred witnessed instant justice when the driver of a Ford Expedition ran a red light right in front of a Florida state trooper. When the trooper cut across the intersection in pursuit of the red light runner, he nearly struck an oncoming Chevy SUV. Moments later, Fred passed the Expedition pulled over on the side of the road. Robert barely made it into an intersection before his light turned red, but an oncoming SUV driver had assumed he was going to stop and started turning across his path. Robert told us bystanders stopped to help after he T-boned the turning Ford Explorer. Police and firefighters arrived 5 minutes later. Robert's wife and 2 daughters escaped with only minor injuries, but he wasn't so fortunate. He's hired a lawyer to help negotiate the medical bills, but that process is ongoing. He wanted to shout out his daughters, Serenity and Kylie. Trevor was driving his Subaru Impreza in Allentown, Pennsylvania, when another driver blasted past him in the center turn lane before cutting back into traffic. But at least one driver he'd passed was not going to let it slide. A police SUV followed in hot pursuit, and minutes later, Trevor drove past the stopped SUV as the driver was no doubt working on an excuse to explain his reckless driving. Gotta love that instant justice. This submitter was driving his BMW when he approached an intersection where cross-traffic has stop signs, but his direction does not. Keep an eye on the black pickup that approached from his right. The driver of the Ram pickup ran his stop sign and headed straight across our submitter's path. Remember, our submitter had no stop sign, and that means he should have been able to drive right through without slowing down. Thankfully, our submitter noticed what was happening and dodged around the pickup. He credits his new tires for keeping him safe. He also wanted to tell us that as a BMW driver, he actually likes using his turn signals. Since they aren't visible in his dashcam footage, nor was there any occasion to use them in this instance, I guess we'll just have to take his word for it. Every time we show a Close the Gap video, we get a host of comments about laws requiring drivers not to block intersections. That's why we're always careful to specify that we're not talking about leaving required gaps. For example, in this video, our submitter's dashcam captured the moment that a driver ahead of them left a gap for a driveway, not an intersection, and the unfortunate consequences of their good intentions. A driver exiting the driveway made a risky move and paid the price, something they simply couldn't have done if the other driver had pulled forward to close the gap. Remember, leaving a gap when you have the right-of-way, like in this case, is not courteous, it's dangerous. Close the gap. Panda and Penguin were headed to Denton, Texas in Panda's Toyota RAV4 Prime when they approached a traffic light flashing red in all directions, usually indicative of a problem with the traffic light's control system. Drivers were treating the traffic light as a four-way stop, but take a look at what Panda and Penguin spotted on the left side of the road as they moved up to wait for their turn to proceed. It's hard to tell, but it looks like a semi-truck up ahead had snagged a low-hanging power line. And when the truck continued, it ripped down a power pole and sent splintering debris flying everywhere. Our submitters passed a big chunk of the pole in the road before driving over the downed line and continuing. Meanwhile, a nearby light pole bounced back and forth after the cable snapped. This isn't the first submission Panda and Penguin have sent us. In a previous episode, theirs was featured as the leading video. We'll put a link to that episode at the end of this one, just in case you missed it. Melissa was waiting at a traffic light when she noticed that an oncoming Toyota SUV wasn't slowing down. She honked in an attempt to warn other drivers, but there was nothing else she could do. A pickup driver spotted the Toyota and slammed on the brakes to avoid a collision, but the driver of a car didn't see it until it was too late for them to react. Melissa stopped to help before providing her footage to the involved drivers. When she showed her footage to a responding police officer, he told her to never get rid of her dash cam. She told us she shows our videos to her kids so they'll know what to watch for when they're driving. Jose was taking a friend home when an oncoming driver suddenly turned across his lane, forcing him to brake hard and swerve to avoid a T-bone collision. Thankfully, Jose's maneuver prevented what would have been a brutal collision, but he told us he still had to pull over to look for his heart that had jumped out of his chest. His passengers were glad he'd been paying attention. Blaine was on his way to breakfast when an SUV driver suddenly sideswiped his Honda Accord. After the collision, it seemed like the SUV driver was trying to flee, as she continued for several miles without stopping. Blaine called 911 right away while he followed the Volkswagen down the highway. Eventually, the SUV pulled over and stopped, but when the driver came back to talk to him, she told him she couldn't stay as she had to get her friend to work. Blaine decided to let her leave after getting her insurance information. Thankfully, nobody was injured, and the insurance company accepted liability once Blaine sent them his dashcam footage. The current repair estimate is around $6,000 US, and Blaine is now waiting for his car to get fixed. Manuel was on his way to work when he spotted a Tesla behaving badly. Check out this Tesla driver's creative way of getting around traffic.
That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive.
Instead of getting into one of the two left turn lanes and waiting for the traffic light, the Model Y driver illegally turned from a straight-only lane, cutting across oncoming lanes with green lights. Yikes! By the way, Manuel told us he upgraded his dashcam to one of the models we recommend, and he's noticed a huge difference in video quality. If you want a crystal clear 4K dashcam for your ride, we put links in the description. Shawn was proceeding through a three-way stop with the right-of-way when an oncoming driver pulled out early, colliding with Shawn's Kia Soul. Shawn told us he'd been watching the pickup truck on his left just in case it wandered into his lane, but he was struck from the right by the Ford Fusion instead. Thankfully, the driver accepted full responsibility right away. He claimed he hadn't seen Shawn's Kia Soul, which ended up having to be towed away from the scene. Thankfully, there were no injuries, and the Ford driver's insurance provider will be paying $6,400 US to fix Shawn's Kia. Shawn told us he'd been watching a recent episode of Wham Bam Tesla Cam just a few hours before this collision. We'll put a link to the exact episode at the end of this video so you can enjoy it too. Connor merged left to go around a pickup truck that had slowed down to turn, but that's when another driver pulled out onto the road and Connor barely avoided T-boning it. Only by slamming on the brakes did Connor manage not to smash into the turning SUV. He told us our videos have made him more aware while driving, and paying attention is what enabled him to react and avoid a collision. Shawn was driving home from work in rush hour traffic when he was suddenly rear-ended after vehicles ahead of him came to an abrupt stop. The impact shoved Shawn's Kia Forte into the back of a Hyundai Elantra, making this a three-vehicle collision. The three drivers exchanged information before waiting 2 hours for a Florida state trooper to respond. Along with the vehicle that had hit him, Shawn's Kia had to be towed away, and it was later totaled. The other driver's insurance provider settled with Shawn for $15,000 US. Johnny was driving home after work when he had to dodge around an object as it flew out of the utility truck in front of him. Okay, I'm sure we were all distracted by the gorgeous refreshed Tesla Model 3 in the other lane, so let's hit the instant replay and watch that again. Thankfully, Johnny has good reflexes and avoided the airborne hazard. When the driver of the utility truck reached his destination and realized something was missing, we can imagine how he must have responded, "Ah, bucket." Joshua had just dropped his brother off at school when an oncoming driver cut in front of him to reach her own driveway. Joshua told us police declined to respond since there were no serious injuries. The SUV driver told her insurance provider that Joshua was at fault, but he has the dashcam footage to prove that wasn't the case. Joshua had been driving his aunt's car at the time, which we're guessing is probably totaled based on the damage photos he sent us. He wanted to shout out his brother Adrian and cousin David, who watch our videos with him. This submitter was coming home from work when she was almost rear-ended by a semi-truck driver who never even slowed down. Our submitter told us she had signaled to make a right turn well in advance, but as she slowed down for the turn, she noticed the semi-truck was not slowing down. She kept going straight to avoid being hit, missing her turn. The truck bounced through the grass on the side of the highway before regaining control. Meanwhile, our submitter kept going and took the next right turn instead. She told us this is the closest call she's ever had. Brett watched another driver make a U-turn up ahead of him before she drifted across the road and sideswiped his Chevy Silverado. Both drivers stopped in a parking lot to exchange insurance details. Brett told us the other driver had been driving less than a year and this was her first collision. Her insurance provider paid Brett a $4,200 US settlement for the damage to his pickup, which he repaired himself. Over a year later, he still loves driving it. This submitter sent us dashcam footage of an annual holiday in Thailand when people splash each other with water. After she drove past a family that sprayed water on her car, she encountered a crazy water battle. People in the back of a pickup truck threw water from buckets while bystanders fought back with squirt guns. Our submitter told us that everyone was having a good time as she continued home. Don't forget to check out this episode featuring another submission from Panda and Penguin when Panda watched an SUV driver lose control before colliding with a semi-truck. Or watch the episode of Wham Bam Tesla Cam that Shal watched the morning before his collision we watched earlier.
Wham Bam, we got a Patreon man. Please support the show.